Colonel Sanders, of Kentucky Fried Chicken fame, was broke at 65, and he reinvented himself. Now, you may be frustrated with your business, but look what happens when you don't give up on your dreams. They come true, and success is yours. Harland Sanders always believed he was destined for great things. Despite not having the education or experience, he just believed he could. He ran away from home at the age of 12 to escape his stepfather's beatings, falsified his birth certificate to join the army at 16, and was shipped off to Cuba. So it was ignorance on fire, and Sanders drifted in and out of jobs as a trolley car conductor, a steamboat pilot, a railroad fireman, and a top salesman for Prudential Insurance, until he got fired after fighting with his boss over commission. Buoyed by a few correspondence courses, the colonel even tried his hand at the law, but his legal career ended badly after exchanging a few punches in court with his own client. Undeterred, he even ran for the state senate in 1951, but lost the election after declaring that the best vote ever cast were the 187 that beat him. His first wife took the kids and moved back home to live with her parents. Even his brother-in-law weighed in, sending Sanders a letter saying, "She has no business marrying a no-good fellow like you who can't hold a job." Now, how many people in your family are telling you that you're just not going to succeed? Remember, someone's opinion of you doesn't need to be your reality. Sanders said, "I made a resolve that I was going to amount to something if I could, and no hours, nor amount of labor, nor amount of money would deter me from giving the best that there was in me. And I have done that ever since, and I win by it." Ultimately, he decided to go with what he knew, and he knew how to cook. Sanders offered up dishes from the living quarters of his service station business, ultimately moving his fried chicken from the pan to the pressure fryer, and his kitchen to a 142-seat restaurant motel. Sanders would go on to popularize his secret recipe, even wooing food critic Duncan Hines in 1939 to list Sanders' place in The Adventures in Good Eating, the famous guide to restaurants throughout the U.S. After years of career dabbling, Sanders finally reached some measure of success, but when the new interstate rolled in and took his customers elsewhere, it left him flat broke at 65. And the colonel was forced to sell the business in an auction, making barely enough just to cover his bills. Now, what about you? What about your plans? Ever get them screwed up? Well, here's where we can either choose to live with the lemons or make lemonade. One has to remember that every failure can be a stepping stone to something bigger. Determined not to give up, he took his first $105 Social Security check and reinvented his business. At 65, when most men retire, Sanders began visiting potential franchisees, pitching them on his secret recipe. He slept in his car, shaved in the service station bathrooms, and was turned down more than 1,000 times. How many no's do you get in a day? How many no's did you get today? Sanders' approach finally proved successful, and the Kentucky Fried Chicken Corporation grew to more than 300 franchisees. Less than 10 years after starting the company, the colonel sold it for roughly $2 million, which is probably about $15 million by today's numbers. Then he did it again at 83. "It's not over until I win," he says. Now, that was more about the fight than the money. When Kentucky Fried Chicken went public in 1966, the colonel was offered 10,000 shares of stock as part of the purchase price, which he refused because he didn't believe in that thing called stock. Seems the financial loss didn't bother him as much as the tinkering with his recipe and his company did. So when the Hubel Company purchased Kentucky Fried Chicken for $285 million, the KFC trademark became the most successful fast food restaurant in the world. Wealth, like happiness, is never attained when sought after directly. It comes as a byproduct of providing something useful. And Sanders provided something useful. You see, you get by giving. Because of his active role and contributions in community life with the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Freemasons, Governor Lawrence Weatherby commissioned Sanders a Kentucky colonel in 1949, but it was Sanders himself who would go on to devise the ultimate marketing plan by refashioning himself after the Kentucky Colonel cartoons he'd seen as a kid to become the colonel with the requisite mustache and signature goatee. Become who you were meant to be. Well, the white suit edition was frankly a complete fluke. Unable to change from a Florida visit, he disembarked from his flight to the waiting press, who declared, "That's the most impressive man I've ever seen in a white suit." Shirley Topmiller, the colonel's former secretary, said, "The light bulb went on for him at the airport, and he said, if I stood out, that's really what I want to do." And what about you? Had any light bulb moments? Do you know how to refashion yourself, or perhaps capitalize on a great idea? How about that? What makes you stand out from a crowd? Great marketing's all about the triggers and grabbing folks' attention. Sanders first changed the way fried chicken was prepared and cooked, and then he created a mystique trigger by keeping the 11 herbs and spices a secret recipe. But his coup was the Colonel brand. Now, what about you? The Colonel is a worthy case study in success with all the ingredients of a brilliant business plan. What about you? Are you struggling because you don't have one? How are you doing things differently? How are you getting attention? What's your brand all about? Maybe it's not a white suit, but you can still stand out from the crowd. And this mystique trigger, it's quite fascinating. You know, it flirts with us. Take a look at this old and, I confess, somewhat creepy, yet very popular commercial. He keeps us intrigued about those 11 herbs and spices.
I say, let's muzzle him. Let the lie detector do it.
We want your secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
And we want it now. You're going to tell us now?
Why, it's my pleasure, lady.
Go ahead, tell us.
First, we take some eggs and some milk and
Yes, Colonel.
some flour and savory.
And?
Then we have 4 ounces.
4 ounces of what?
4 ounces of 4 ounces of grandfather's overcoat.
Give up, girls. How to blend 11 herbs and spices that make Kentucky Fried Chicken so finger-licking good. That's the Colonel's secret. Forever.
Now, Colonel, let's try it again. And this time the truth.
Finally, I had 3 shoelaces and a hubcap.
Give it up, girls. That's the Colonel's secret. And the Colonel had a duplicatable system, a proven process, must-have tools, and a set of defined instructions. Sunday dinners 7 days a week, and it's finger-licking good. So tell me, how duplicatable is your system? So he says, the easy way is efficacious and speedy. The hard way is arduous and long. But as the clock ticks, the easy way becomes harder and the hard way becomes easier. And as the calendar records the years, it becomes increasingly evident that the easy way rests haphazardly upon shifting sands, whereas the hard way builds solidly a foundation of confidence that cannot be swept away. So you see, success doesn't care how old you are. Just get up Dust yourself off, participate, work hard, and make it happen, because you can reinvent yourself too. If you need some help with that, talk to us. We're Tim and Darcy at Sticky Bee.